Welcome to Down the Dopamine Hole, where I talk about weird shit and see if I can tie it to other weird shit. The word of the year for 2025, according to dictionary.com, was 6'7". Honestly, I had never even heard of it. But then again, I am old. If you're like me, you're wondering, what in the hell is 6'7"? 6'7" is a word or phrase used by Gen Alpha, so those born between 2012 and 2024, so the real youngins. It is thought to originate from the song Doot Doot 6'7" by Skrilla, and it has multiple meanings, and it's used in multiple ways. It can mean anything from so-so or as a response to about any question asked by an older generation, as in, how was school? 6'7". Part of the defining feature of 6'7" is that it's almost impossible to define, if that's not the most circular logic I've ever heard. Okay? By the way, 6'7" is written as 6'7", 6'7", or 6'7". But the important thing is to never say 67, you'll just look old. You're welcome. Why does slang exist? The main reason is identity. Slang lets you know with whom you belong and with whom you don't. If you share a common slang, those are your peeps, or fam, or besties, if you're younger than me. If you speak formally versus informally, you're letting people know how you see them and how they should see you. Another reason slang exists is because things change so quickly, and there isn't always a language to keep up. Whether the change is technology, society, or behavioral norms, when words don't exist yet, someone will come up with one, and often it's slang. Slang tends to arise in three groups: professions, criminals, and teenagers. Different professions use their own slang as a shorthand for procedures, materials, ideas, personnel, etc. It's interesting to know that slang is considered information, while jargon is considered formal. So technically, professional slang is jargon. But I'm just going to stick to slang. Professional slang is used to save time. Think of doctors and nurses in the emergency room. Using their own professional shorthand slang can get things done a lot quicker. In psychology, we also use shorthand. We use a book to diagnose called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and we are on the 5th edition text revision. I'm not saying that over and over. We call it the DSM. We use shorthand for diagnosis, like BPD for borderline personality disorder, or ADHD for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Every profession has its own slang. Slang is also used for communication purposes. If I diagnose someone with a disorder, others in my field have an understanding of the symptoms that person is struggling with. Now let's talk about criminals. By all means, let's talk about criminals. Criminals have their own slang so that they can talk about and plan things without anyone else knowing what they're talking about. Although we've all heard the terms narc, po-po, or 5-0, there are some interesting other terms that are used. Keep in mind that I don't know these from personal experience, just research. So if anything that I say is incorrect, feel free to comment and also give yourself up as a criminal at the same time. Hit a lick means to commit a robbery. Collecting rent means extorting someone. A boiler is a stolen car. And of course, there are so many street names for drugs that I can't even begin to mention them all. Let's move on to teen slang and go back to the concept of identity. Identity development, there's our psychological concept of the day. Identity development is most crucial in adolescence and young adulthood. A shared language that is different than other groups, like other generations, tends to make teens feel like they are a part of a group, like they belong. The language that teens use helps to shape their identity. It helps them learn to express themselves in ways that their peers understand, in terms of both their thoughts and their emotions. We have to remember that once we become adults, we go out into the world and we learn to rely on our peers more than our family. This is the entire reason we start to separate from our parents in adolescence. Slang is one way of gaining that autonomy that they will need in just a few years. Research has shown that using slang actually causes the brain to release serotonin, the happy chemical, and dopamine, the pleasure chemical. There are other rewards that happen in the brain, but I'm not going to go into all of that. Suffice it to say that when we learn new words like slang, our brain really likes it. So it's not just, I'm going to learn secret words that people outside my circle don't understand. It's also your brain going, keep it up. This is awesome. This feels good. If we're going to talk about identity and belonging, We also have to talk about the concepts of in-groups and out-groups. In-groups are the groups to which we belong, and out-groups are pretty much everybody else. Slang is just one way that we can define our in-groups. Our in-groups can change depending on the situation. I can consider my in-group my generation when talking about other generations, but my friends when I'm with my friends. It doesn't mean that my in-groups change. It just means that one tends to be more important depending on what I'm doing at the time. In-groups are great because they help us form our identity, they give us feelings of belonging, and these two things are fundamental human needs. They affect our self-esteem, development, and they give us a way to understand the world. By favoring our in-group and distinguishing it from out-groups, it makes us feel special. There is, however, a problem with in-groups and out-groups. By comparing our in-group with out-groups, we need to make our in-group better than out-groups. This leads to viewing others as not as good as, which can lead to all kinds of issues like prejudice, less empathy, stereotyping, and even seeing other groups as less human. In more extreme cases, it can lead to hatred and violence. The differences between your group and other groups are emphasized, making it difficult to see the similarities between you and other people. And of course, social media can make this worse, since you tend to only interact with social media that shares your viewpoint. In recent years, our in-groups have gotten smaller. Less people are engaged in social networks or organizational affiliation. Fewer people are going to church, casual social gatherings, or are involved in community organizations. This has led to more social isolation, which has led to smaller in-groups and more loneliness. Social connections are vital for mental health and emotional resilience. Healthier societies revolve around inclusive, connected communities, of which we are not one. How do we fix the whole in-group, out-group issue? First, step out of your in-group. Meet people in your out-group. When we have face-to-face contacts with other people, we learn that there are more similarities than we think, and that the differences are actually interesting and a lot less scary than we feared. People are people, and we all pretty much want the same things. Put your phone down and figure out how to actually go around other people and maybe try to make them not the same people that you're around all the time. Try something new. Yes, absolutely terrifying. I know. But it may also be extremely rewarding. People with expanded in-groups, meaning larger in-groups, tend to be happier than those with smaller in-groups. Basically, open your mind and get to know somebody new. You may learn something about both them and you. So let's wrap it up. Language is supposed to help us communicate, but every generation looks at traditional English and says, we can make this way more confusing, especially to outsiders. If we look at the world of wonderfully chaotic Gen Z slang, something can be fire without producing flames, someone can be cooked without entering an oven, and saying I'm dead is generally not a medical emergency. Slang exists to help form identity and belonging, and social media helps spread it at lightning speed. And your brain is loving every minute of it. I'll translate some of these into traditional English because sometimes you really do need a dictionary to understand a text message. That's giving means that reminds me of. No cap means I'm telling the truth. Bet means, okay, I agree. And it's giving main character means something like you appear to be behaving as though you are the protagonist of the situation, which I admit is much less fun to say. But slang isn't just random nonsense. It's one of the ways language evolves. Every generation creates new expressions, borrows words from different communities, shortens phrases, and changes the meaning of existing words. It helps them to form their identity in groups, in adolescence, through belonging. Gen Z just happens to have TikTok, memes, texting, and the internet working together like a linguistic blender. Words can go from completely unknown to everywhere in a matter of months, and then disappear just as quickly when everyone gets tired of them. So whether you understand every slang term immediately, or you're still trying to figure out why someone is calling something mid, the bigger lesson is that language is alive. It changes because people change. And somewhere right now, a Gen Alpha kid is probably inventing a new word that will make all of us feel approximately 900 years old. That's all I have for today. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Hit the buttons and comment if you're a criminal or you just like to share your favorite slang word or expression, but with the translation, please, because remember that I'm Gen X and I will not understand. I hope you learned something new and enjoyed your time down the dopamine hole. Be safe. take care of yourself, be happy, and most importantly, keep it weird.